Good morning, everyone. We'll call our meeting to order. Councillor Becky. All right. Firstly, the apologies. Any conflicts of interest for reporting? We come to confirmation of minutes, item 3.1. Is there a mover? Councillor Goldsworthy, seconded by Councillor Fulton. Any discussion on those? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Declare that carried. Any measures advising minutes? Okay. So now we come to reports. The first is item 5.1. It's a report in the name of Cole. Good morning, and I see Sylvia there as well. Welcome to our meeting.
And I'll take the report on the adoption of the annual plan as read. As we're all aware, obviously the rates increased 0.98% that we're going out with. Just to recap, we've run a really good process. It started back in December with a number of workshops. Since then, we've had the budget process review in January. And we've obviously been to consultation recently, which included our approach around free waters. So our final plan that we're adopting isn't different from the draft annual plan, although we have had some submissions come in and the staff have worked really hard in order to be able to hold that 4.98%, as well as take feedback from community and as well as councils. So with that, just before I open up for questions, I would like to thank her. Like I say, it's been a really well run process, and that's down to her doing. She's kept us all on track and ensured to deliver good. So with that,
Thank you. Any questions, colleagues? Councillor Cairns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. You said that you started this process in December, so the next annual plan, when does that start? When does the process start again? Just to get an understanding from myself.
The project control group will actually meet in September. That's when we would normally start the process, looking at the calendar. Again, we will plan council workshops once the new council is in place. We'll work on suitable timing for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Fulton. Sorry, you hold on. So just what's that? Sorry.
Well, it's really
so it's a question.
It is a question. It's really a reiteration. I think our Deputy Mayor raised it in the recent meeting. He's outgoing, and some of us may or may not be, but we come back to having this process immediately after LTP. Just for clarity, is this a voluntary exercise, actually having to do this and plan, particularly say straight after the LTP round? We had some discussion or point raised as to the merit of this and the way we consult over it, given the resources that we put into it.
Yeah, I'll probably answer that one. Yeah. But this one wasn't a voluntary process because we included the affordable water done well consultation with it, and so that required us to go out and do a voluntary consultation process. With an LTP, it's the second year of LTP, and you're quite right, if we didn't have that process included, we wouldn't have to go out and consult with the community. We do have to do an annual planning. We don't have to consult on it. What a lot of councils do is they'll do an annual plan without consultation and then adopt it. Some of them will ask for comments. This council, for as long as I've been here, have always consulted on its annual plan. We see it as a duty, really, to give the community an opportunity to write and tell us what they think about our services, what they would like to see, also the grants as well. So a lot of communities, there's changing circumstances, high inflation, and so it gives them an opportunity to submit to the council on various things. So we've always done that. But next time when we do year 3, which starts in September, we'll test the council again whether they feel they want to consult. It's a reiterative process. I should say that processes for the next LTP will be really as jointly with the annual plan, because it's a year before the LTP gets put out there that you actually consult with their policies and so forth, then go into the long-term plan. Is that okay?
It does. I just wonder whether the reflection could be more immediate, because you know, by the time we reflect on the next round, well, we might be feeling like we're doing it again. But at the moment, we've got some reflection that we're all, but not first, but one of the merits.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? So I could indicate we have a recommendation. You indicated you wish to move as to Executive Council Board. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Most of you will know this will probably be the last opportunity I have to actually move an annual plan that's in front of us. There's a couple of things I really want to touch on, and that is that the restraints, of course, that were shown by our staff in putting forward the plan to us in the initial stages, and then of course council working through the facts that we didn't add things to it, because it can be very easy to do. There are some moral things around put in front of us, and particularly around grants, that we like to look after our community, and we like to make sure that our community moves forward in what they're doing. Unfortunately, the times that we have and budget constraints that everybody has, we haven't been able to move on some of those things. Some of them were brought forward to us because they already knew that it wasn't going to happen as we went through. So look, there's a lot of rumour out there in the community around transparency, and you've heard me say this before around the buzzword transparency, and that's exactly what it is. It is a buzzword. This is one stage in transparency that this council puts out there. That is its budget. One of the things we do is we ask people for input for transparency's sake in the budget. We've had that. We've asked for it. We've received it. All this good feedback for us, if you like, in the way we're thinking. But we sum that up and we come to a balanced view on what it is in front of us. We can't like everything that's in the plan or in the budget, but we like most of it. And we support most of it, as right through the process around this table we have shown. And our community, I view, certainly in places that I deal with, have said to us we've done the best that we can. They understand that CPI is not part of what we do. We have a local government index. I've never known a council yet that sells apples and buys bananas. So commodity market means nothing to the rate, apart from affordability for the people who are paying the bills. Us setting it is a whole different matter. The local government rate of what happens around contracting is the thing that is most important to us when it comes to prices going up and down, particularly in rates and particularly in roading, all of those sorts of things. So it's a bit of an unfair criticism to go on about CPI in the community when in fact it's not what sets the rates for this council. It certainly hurts people because that is the rate that they're thinking of, is the consumer index. We don't have a consumer index, we have a local government index for contracting. So, I want to make that point very clear, and that is 100%, here comes the buzzword, transparent. We have all of those asset management plans that feed into this. We have everything which you can go online and you can get. So I just want to make it very clear that this year, transparency and last year have been brought into our world, if you like, as the buzzword and as the concentration of what we do. Well, we are transparent. I don't know of any other businesses as such who are as transparent as a government agency, where everything is public and has to be on the table. Here it is. So around consultation, look, we've always said around this table that consultation is something that we like to do, and we invite people in because we do really want to hear from our community and make sure that what we are hearing is what other people are hearing or saying. That is something that I've always held dear around the table. However, I look at the first year after a 10-year plan and have to say to myself, with the costs that are involved in presenting a budget to us, I don't think that first year after a 10-year plan is necessary to do public consultation. We just did this just a wee while ago. So that first year, I think you can get some efficiencies out of probably not consulting. But my view, the rest of the time, absolutely necessary to engage with the community and make sure they come and see you and make sure that they tell you what it is that's going on in their mind at the table. I note also that hopefully people will apply for the subsidy which they can get for their rates, and I encourage people to take particular notice of that. It has risen this year, and I think it's something that as council laws we can help get out there to people and make sure that people do apply for that. But this is a balanced budget. It's the best that I think we can do within the constraints we have, and people are really hurting out there. There is no question about that. I don't think anyone can deny that. And we've done the best we can in the means that we have to move forward and take a growing district into the future for another 12 months as respectfully and as efficient as we can within the constraints that we have. So I urge you to support the experience of this one.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you. I of course will be supporting this. I think that the council staff and the councillors have done a really awesome job to retain the increase to within under 5%. Not an easy job. It's been a long process and very well critiqued and very well managed by the staff. Thank you very much for all your hard work. We really, really appreciate it. You're very efficient. You've worked through everything. You're giving us also, we're a growth council and we cannot stand on our hands and say we're not doing anything. We have to keep investing in our district so that we don't fall behind. If you fall behind, you end up like maybe Wellington, completely under the soup. And that's not what we can afford to do. We're very lucky that we're a growth council. It probably saves us half of our percentage increase because of the extra people that are contributing to our rates and to our expenses. We're very, very. I think that people, we need to get across to people that the service that we provide, we're not a business making unit. We are a customer service council, giving service to our community. And what we offer, when you think about our roading and our infrastructure and our libraries and our swimming pools and our parks and our roads and our cycleways and everything that we offer in this rate for the year, if you can just compare what we offer and have a look at your power bill for the year, one item, and you look at our rates, my power bill is more than my rates for the year, and look what is offered and what is given and the rates expenses. So much is received for the community in that expense, and I think we mustn't lose sight of that. And I think we do really, really well with what we provide to our community for what we receive. So a big thank you to the staff for keeping us on track. And I want to say that we're very fortunate that we have very professional, very caring staff, very well led, and we as councillors really appreciate what you've done for us and how you look after us. I'm very happy to say I'm very proud that 4.98 is a very reasonable increase for what the level of service that we're offering to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rickland.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Over the last 6 years, I think we've had some of the lowest increases in Canterbury, if not New Zealand, and we've done this whilst keeping rates as low as possible, providing for continued growth and maintaining current levels of service. And there is a good summary in paragraph 3.9 and 3.10 of the report, alluding to those matters, the effects that we have to deal with, inflation, insurance, and other challenges. I note I recently put on social media the changes to the rates rebate scheme, and it became apparent to me from some of the comments that a lot of people don't know what we do with the rates. They don't know what services we're providing. We think it's obvious, but it became apparent there are people out there who don't understand what the rates are actually funding. And I just thought maybe that's something we could communicate better, perhaps, because I think we provide excellent value for the services we do provide. As you know, I was away for part of May, so your deliberations, I've had to read the minutes and the submissions, and I've read all the minutes and submissions of your deliberations, and I'm very happy with the conclusions that you came to. So I'm certainly supportive of adopting the annual plan and the recommendations associated with that. I think, and this, we don't know, this may very well be some of our last comments on an annual plan or long-term plan, depending on what people choose to do and what the performance review of those who stand end up with. So I think this council can be proud of what it's achieved in the last 3 years, and I think we leave the council in a very good position for the next council. So very pleased to adopt the recommendation, and whilst 4.98 might be more than some people would like, I think we've done a very good job getting to that figure. So very pleased to support it, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Myself next, then followed by Councillor Fulton. It's been an occasion just to say, firstly, appreciated the remarks of the Deputy Mayor. It's not too late to change your mind. As you know, I regularly say that because, in all seriousness, your 21 years of service to this community has been extraordinary. It's longer than that. It's a lifetime of service, really, when I look at all the things that you've been involved with over that time. You did indicate to a number of us that it was 24 years. And as I've said to you on a number of occasions, I think you should give another 3 to make sure, no, in all seriousness, when you come to that conclusion, you come to it, and there'll be the appropriate place for us to acknowledge that, and thank you for that. But I couldn't ask for a more loyal Deputy Mayor who I front a lot of this, but actually in behind is someone that gives me extraordinary advice and support. I couldn't do this job without you, seriously. And look, all of you that are up for your performance reviews with this budget, you deserve a successful performance review. This is a great team here at this council. And I think one of the best that I've worked in my coming 21 years of service myself, so and I'm not planning to retire like you. Can I just say to our staff, thank you for all the work that's gone into this. This has been many months of work right across the organisation. But to our staff here today, thank you for all that work that's gone in. I know there's a lot of effort going in with the responses back to the public, and it's always a big job, because that's one thing we do pride ourselves on here, is when people do submit to us, we do get back to them. I do believe in consultation, and I believe in hearing from our public. There might be a case actually, if it is a budget where there is very little, and that's something we need to think about in the future. But in this instance, it's a really, I think, an ideal opportunity for our public to hear their thoughts. But this time round, the Three Waters consultation was a significant part of that. And as we know, 97% coming back endorsing the model that the council has agreed with, and I'd like to acknowledge Jeff and the team and Jared, because they've been working on getting the water services delivery shaped and ready to go. And my understanding is it's not far off being submitted, so well done to the team for that. It's a huge piece of work, and one thing that defines us at a council. I think the other thing that we can be very pleased with is that, and I think your indication of summary of the debate, obviously absorbed Councillor Redmond, is that we were, it was a unanimous decision of this council, notwithstanding you read this, we'll see how you vote today, on after consultation debate on this budget. So I just hope that that continues today, because it's an integrated piece. It's a whole program of works each and every single year as we come to the to our annual plan, and then as we look forward to the long-term plan. There are projects sitting out there in our heads that represent reasonable sums of money. It'll be up to this council and for future councils to determine whether those projects survive. We all have our priorities, and each and every single year we consider those. And it's based on the comments that were made before around what we think is an acceptable level of impost on our community. What can they afford? What are projects that we think are reasonable? We've prioritised some items in that. We've indicated those, we've consulted in those, and they're sitting in those budgets. But that'll be up to this to the future council to determine whether they survive or not. If I've got an influence in that, I've got an open mind with respect to those, because that's what we do as decision makers here. And we make calls all the time on it. Just because something's sitting in an out-of-year's budget and is modelled doesn't necessarily mean it will survive. We are required by Audit New Zealand, and pushed really strongly in that space, to make sure we identify all those projects and they sit in our plan. So I know there's been a commentary about some of those items for future, but that'll be a determining factor for this, for the future council, as to whether, and it'll depend on the economic climate and all the things that we see as important through that. So one other thing is, I just want to perhaps just indicate that the last few years have been pretty challenging. We've been through a range of things through this community. But one thing I think we can be genuinely pleased to hear was a statistic the Chief Executive mentioned to us the other day. Our greatest resource is our staff. Greatest resource. We can't achieve anything without the work of our staff, contractors across the organisation. Staff satisfaction, I understand, sitting in the mid, around 93%. That's absolutely extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. And that is a stat that other councils would die to have. Christchurch is in the 50s, as I recall. They were much lower than that last term of council. And that's down to the leadership of our general managers, and right across our organisation. So I say to everyone here and to our community, moving this district forward in a positive direction is where this council is focused, and we're acknowledging growth. Next week we have us our district has reported back our district plan, and there's been a huge amount of work come into that, and I look forward to seeing finally what those recommendations are as we share that with our community. But ultimately we are here to serve our community. That's what I think this council does best. It serves its community each and every single day. People are at the centre of everything that we do here. Just, I urge you all to adopt this budget today. Councillor
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some excellent words to follow. And can I just note, and I think it's been touched on in the commentary, that it's inadvisable to apply a sort of a private sector analysis for a public body like ours. We are not a shop. We can't turn the lights out and walk away. And yeah, there's no tie-ho for the work we do. We can sometimes dim the lights and put in a bit of insulation or something, but that obligation to our communities stands. So I think a little bit of the rigour that we sort of try to impose on our accounts is good, but we shouldn't be mistaking ourselves for a private enterprise or a commercial business, because we have all those pillars that we talk about, and some of our pillars we want to more closely don't like the range of social services that we have. Some people would prefer that we have more public utilities and stuff in real hard concrete, but we're responsible for all of that range. From basically library, swimming pool, park services, you name it. So I probably made that point clear enough. I think in terms of our response to our budgeting and our provision of services, we are taking responsible and considered steps, both in the management of our rates increase, which if we're going to be talking of benchmarks, and this is our own benchmarks, not some quasi-benchmark imposed by a government authority, then we are country leading, and we're very much in that top bracket. We're also in the top bracket for the growth of our population, the demand on our services, and I think from what I hear from our mayor, our CEO and our staff, we consistently get feedback saying that we are in that top tier, and in fact we have a lot to show and offer. Councils are bigger and smaller than our own, so I think we can really be proud of that. As far as the community engagement goes, I think there's some room to consider that first year after an LTP, not because we don't need to consult or that we're sort of taking anything for granted. It's just that if we put the water done well aside, how much have we really moved the bar that first year after LTP? I'm new to this still. I consider myself relatively new, but maybe that's a tweaking area to consider. I come from a background of, I suppose, like most of us, community groups and engagement. I still love doing that. We all do. We get a kick out of hearing from our communities and responding to our communities. And being a journalist still, and I do love the challenge of hearing from people and sometimes getting a bit of a tickle up sometimes and being surprised. I think we should never stop being surprised by what people tell us, even if we don't like the message. As long as we keep our grassroots connection, we listen to people, and we let them guide us to some extent, because that's where we'll get innovation, and we'll cut some of those corners, not cut corners, but save costs, do things better, and create efficiencies if we keep listening to people. So I really commend this set of figures, including the rates proposal, to you all, and thank you for your support for me in this term actually, and getting up to speed and hopefully learning more as I go.
Thanks, Councillor Fortune. So any further speakers? Right, reply if you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of points really that I wanted to make, and just given what we've heard from around the table, and people need to also realise that power this year has gone up 11% on average. Insurance up 22% on average. I ask who's being responsible at 4.8%. Those that get chastised are those who are sitting at a table and are stuck with many things that have to rise because there is no choice. I wish there was a choice. Affordability, particularly for fixed incomers and those on low wages, is there, and it is very real that it is there. If we had a zero rate rise, can I suggest to you, there's no reason for putting up rates, that affordability challenge would still be there. It wouldn't change that. I just wanted to end on something that actually got to me a little bit. As you well know, my past profession is in the booze trade, and I was really interested listening to Anthony Goff chastising Christchurch City Council for their rate rise. And one of the things was that he said that if I put my prices up over the last 10 years by 100%, I'd be out of business. Well, Anthony, I'm not quite sure why you're not out of business, because they've gone up over 100% in 10 years. So you need to think about what people are telling us. They don't always tell us the truth. They want us to hear what they want to hear. And we need to get that in our head and make sure that we get that right. I mean, that statement from a leading businessman in Christchurch is absolutely not true. 10 years ago, a steak used to cost you $27. Today it costs you $50. A pint used to cost you $8. I defy you to go to any one of Anthony Goff's houses that he leases and get a pint for under $15, because you can't. Yet he's sitting there saying that councils need to get their spending under control and their price rises under control. That is true. That is absolutely true that we need to. But some people need to take an internal look at what they're doing as well before chastising other people. So, people cannot afford these rate rises. I understand that. But I'm just unconvinced about how you do it differently than we're doing it, to make sure that this community, which is one of the best, not just in the country, in the world, actually moves forward and actually delivers the services that it says it's going to. Thank you very much to our staff for taking the approach that they have and trying to pull back everything that they possibly can to make sure that it all works extremely well within council. Jeff, your leadership in that, and I'm sure that at management meetings that some of these conversations are not easy, particularly with your senior managers around you need to cut your cost or no, you can't have that. I can imagine that they are not easy exercises, because they're certainly not easy around this table. So they're not easy with staff who are trying to make sure that. So again, I'm sure this budget will go through. I see that there's a fair bit of support for it. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to all that have been involved.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll now put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary?
Abstain.
So, do you wish that recorded? Abstention. I declare that carried. Right, so we now, thank you, Colin team. So we've got a rates resolution, quite a substantial resolution. So, I'd like to come forward and thank you, Sylvia. Takes up most of our agenda, summary agenda. Thank you. Are you? Just when you're ready.
Thank you. The resolution is a requirement of section 23 of the Local Government Rating Act, and it's required to be able to set the rates for the 25-26 year. Are there any questions on this?
Thank you. Marie, did you?
No, thank you. Thank you very well. I'm pleased you didn't ask her to read it out.
Yes, we might be here for the rest of the day. Thank you. Is there any questions or comments? Councillor Keith.
Thank you. In terms of the Pegasus services rate, it was previously $74.92, now it's down to $74.51. Any rationale as to why it's going down?
I think that's probably just what came out of the spreadsheet when all the final figures were in there. We used the figures here from the finance team that have come through the annual. It's liable to change marginally in the final draft. So.
Thank you.
We've just noting with that we've got a workshop in due course around that particular Pegasus communication. Any other questions? Got a series of recommendations which takes up it's more like 6-7 pages, which is excellent. Is someone prepared to? You can Councillor Ward, and I'm happy to see, or Councillor Brian can see. Councillor Ward.
Cool. Big effort, a lot of work, well done. I just once again, we're just so proud of our team. Thank you.
Very well spoken.
Further speakers. It's just a large amount of work giving effect to it, which is what this does. So thank you to all that goes in behind the scenes to give effect to our decisions. Right, no further speakers. Right, reply if you wish. I've got the recommendation. Everyone's clear on that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary. Hear that unanimously carried. All right. And we have 5.3, which is Tika Hoka to the Tala Trust. Thank you. Then, great.
The purpose of this report is to present the statement of intent for Te Waimakariri Trust for the year ending 30th of June 2026. This was reported to the Organised Committee in March of this year, and the committee requested that Te Waimakariri Trust come back with a list of things that they were considering to balance their budget. You'll see that noted within the report, which has been provided by Al Lackey, the current chair of the trust. They've also identified an additional change to the statement of intent, which is identified in the recommendations, and that is specifically in relation to the development of additional biota nodes within the park, and that is in line with their strategy for moving back to maintenance only and just keeping the lights on within the park, as opposed to taking on any new developments which will require ongoing operational maintenance funding in the short term. Obviously long term, once they move through this period, hopefully they're able to get some additional external resources, external funding, and then start to grow the likes of their education program, additional biota nodes and those sorts of things again. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there anything you'd like to add as
Not right now, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you, questions? You wish to move? Thank you, Councillor. Seconded. Councillor Brickman.
I actually had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I did look for questions, but would you be happy to second and you can ask your questions?
Yes.
Yes. So, Councillor.
Well, I'm seconding. Who knows?
No, please, but would you like to ask your question?
Oh, I'll ask my question now. Yes, I was just going to ask, what does the trust see as its role in education going forward? It seemed to me that was a very important function of the trust, but it looks like that's curtailed.
It's probably actually best for Al to answer that, because I'll be speaking on behalf of the trust.
Yeah, unfortunately we lost our very, very competent education ranger last year, and we haven't replaced her yet specifically with an education ranger, partly for financial reasons. A new staff member has some skills in this field, but not as much as Michaela had. The education is multifaceted, as you probably know. It's the schools come in, varsities come in, training things. We have people coming from the US of A, from Michigan University and other places come to us. Other educational facilities around New Zealand come to us. It is an important part of our thing, and that all ties in with the ownership of a biota node. As you know, a family or a group or a school can adopt a biota node, and they keep that under their control. So yes, it's an important part, and as Chris said in his précis, it's definitely on our radar to get a not full time, but when we do have an education ranger, they are about 3/5 of a week is done, and there's usually about 3 groups coming on 3 different days in a week. So it's more than a half-time job, just the education ranger. We intend to be back there as soon as financially possible.
I just add to that education doesn't stop. It's actually the education ranger, if you like, that's stopped because we don't have the money to fund that. The rangers that are there will still be entertaining groups around their biota nodes and people who visit the park, and the education on that will still happen. It's just not that it's done by an educator, if you like. So that will come back when the money returns from hard times that everybody's having.
Any other questions? So recommendations moved by Councillor Becky and still seconded by Councillor Redmond. Got your hand up at the time. Thank you. Would you like to speak?
Very briefly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yep, as you read in the report, times have been hard. We've had a lot of disruption in the last 12 months with staff turnover and things, but we've got that nicely under control now. As I've said in my report, about 50% of our income is from outside sources. Council contribute about 50, and the rest comes from funding sources, and they are drying up as you watch, as we all know. And so we've had to cut our cloth to suit. We have taken on a part-time expert in extracting blood from a stone, from getting money from funding sources. She is working 1 day a week, chasing money for us. Where that goes, we have to wait and see. As Neville has just said, times are tough, and we've pulled our heads right in. We're somewhere better than survival mode, but certainly not an expansionist mode. So, watch this space.
Just briefly to say, the main change from the statement of intent is taking out 2 biota nodes. The Rotary Club of Rangiora has a biota node that is quite well looked after by some of the Rotarians. And I understand the reason. I never really knew what a biota node was at the beginning, but I now have a better understanding of that. I think it's disappointing that the trust is where it is, but on the other hand, I think it's a recognition of the world that the trust is in these days, and I think it's very responsible to, as you said, Councillor Blackie, for the trust to cut its cloth accordingly. And I'm pleased to hear you found someone who can get blood from a stone, and I wish you well with that. So the trust, I'm sure, will survive to come back and look at returning to business as usual in the future. So at the moment, I guess it's survival mode, or as you said, a little bit better than that. So we're in a maintenance holding pattern, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I'd like to congratulate the trustees for recognising the position they're in and taking steps to address it. So I'm happy to support the recommendation.
I was looking for one of the trustees.
I've been a trustee here for many years, and then of course had an absence away for some time and back again, and it's a very different world to when I was in there before. And look, everything has good times and bad times, and unfortunately, one of the trusts going through a bit of a rough spurt. You know, fire inside the forestry does not help any situation that there is in the trust. We have to deal with that, and we have to make sure that we get the things right before we move back into that expansion mode, as rightfully expressed. It will get there again. I mean, you know, people want to see that these places are looked after. I personally think there are some better ways of doing things for the council in the whole on all of these ecological things that we have going on, and it's time we started to look at what the umbrella for that is. I personally think it is Tiko Haka. We should be moving parts of all of the things that we do into that business, and it could be funded still by the way it's funded, but it could be a huge change for everything that happens, and you could get one company, if you like, that's doing the right company's wrong with, but you could get that the experience of that particular organisation to actually look at what's going on the whole of the district. Always been an advocate for trying to finish a job before you move on to the next one. We're not doing that. As soon as someone comes across a piece of land and trips over it and says, oh, it needs to be planted out, they get a group together and off they go over there and they spend $50,000 and start planting that. You never get to the end of it. And we start another one over there next week. So there needs to be, where this is brought together and amalgamated, and I think People Haka, being the organisation that it is actually the vehicle in which to bring all those things together and make that happen. That's for a future debate around this table. But I think if you did something like that, all of a sudden the funding models change for what you're doing, and you could actually come out with a much better result than we have, you know, at the very present time. We will work through it, and so I urge you to support this. Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Yes, of course, I will be supporting this, but I just really want to say what a dreadful year it's been, and how lucky are we that we have Councillor Blakey, who's really worked and managed under trying times for the last year, holding the whole thing together, really trying to pull things back online. I know there's lots of things that they've found that need adjusting, bank accounts, car ownership and staff leaving, all sorts of things. And he's been the stalwart and the glue that actually kept this trust afloat, in my view. And I really think we should be very, very grateful to him. And we're so lucky to have somebody like that in our council that is looking after this precious asset that we have in our district. So big thank you.
I endorse those remarks around Councillor Blakey. He's also been well supported by our organisation as well through Sarah and others who've given a lot of really great advice. But you have shown excellent leadership through this time and kept me really well briefed about what's going on and all the challenges there. I know it's been frustrating through that time, but the leadership's been excellent, and we are very grateful for your service there, and also supported by people there as well. And you have many years of experience with TKTT. As you say, you've come back in the second time, but I'm sure your skill set's valued. I know it's valued here. So, but the statement of intent has been mentioned as just a minor adjustment there. I think it's a really sensible adjustment, actually. The Bio project, as Councillor Redmond mentioned, is an important one, but just got to take a stock take of where that's at. Bio that Councillor Redmond mentioned, which is supported by the Rotary Club, is actually named in the honour of a former member of this council, Councillor Peter Allen, who was a great supporter of that and also a great routine. So it's a project that I know that the club certainly takes a lot of pride in. Through Peter's instigation that he was Rotary President, so it's nice that that continues in his memory. But it's an important, very important body for TKTT for this district, and one that we're very in support of and want to see it succeed. Any further speakers? Right, aye, Councillor Dick, if you wish.
Thank you.
I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, that carried. Right, well, I have no questions under understanding orders. There's no urgent general business understanding orders. Our next meeting is next Tuesday. We hopefully will be adopting the district plan. And it's got our next scheduled ordinary meeting is Tuesday the 1st of July. So I'll declare our meeting closed at this point. Just looking at time,